So, continuing on the subject of strategics, since before that, or since that time of that 1959 paper I mentioned on rationality and how small boys can stop trucks, I've been very interested in creating a theory of general strategics, which involves particularly some sort of representation and calculus for parties who are aware of each other, and aware of each other being aware of each other. And this is, and I've got thousands of notes on it, but no really unifying top level. Here's a nice example. Police informers. The police informer plex. Now you're aware that there are people called police informers, but wait till you see the ramifications. And this shows the rich strategic relations which can be generated from simple premises. Much of so-called police work is really contacting informers. By the way, there's an extraordinary scene in The French Connection where Popeye has an informer that he's in touch with. He's also beating him up, and yet they have this complicated communication where the informer is telling him what he needs to know while he's being beaten up. What we may call the police informer plex. Much of police work is dealing with informers. However, everyone who's engaged in nefarious activities or illegal activities wants very much to find out who the informers are. So that means the informers don't want to be seen in contact with the police. Therefore, the police, for example, will sometimes hold a dragnet on the occasion of a big crime or something. They'll hold a dragnet which gives them a chance to bring each hundreds of people into the office individually. At that point, the informer can now tell what he needs to tell without having made any explicit connection or made a visible connection with him, because everybody knows he has to be there. So they're not noticeably singled out. However, the police have the informer in a vice, because they can always make an intentional slip that will reveal the informer. And the informer knows this, and what a dangerous game he's playing. However, the informer has the police partly under his control, because he can use selective or fabricated information to affect the police's behavior, eliminating an enemy, closing down a rivalry, etc. He may also get money from the police and tease them with more information. So this is the kind of plex that results from our being beings. Beings who see each other. Beings who threaten each other. Beings who make promises. And beings who can be cajoled. So that is what, so if you begin with Schelling's 1960 book, The Strategy of Conflict, that's an extremely simple model, but that's tied to game theory. You see, I don't understand why strategics is still tied to game theory, because game theory in its classic sense is between two parties who are not allowed to communicate and who are absolute enemies. And there are very few situations in the world that are like that. Schelling, in the book The Strategy of Conflict, pointed out in game theoretical language, so the economists would listen, that there were other situations where communication and shared payoffs were extremely important. So I see this is a work in progress, the modeling and representation of situations and maneuvers and self-revelation and as structures. Now, does this lead to anything practical? Yes. I'm going to repeat now a proposal which I made 20 years ago. It was published in Whole Earth Review. No one liked it. Maybe I said it wrong. Say it again. Millions of lives hang in the balance. No one pays attention. We are in the grip whose epicenter started around the Katanga War in Congo, called AIDS, a strange virus no one never saw before. A slow venereal disease, slow and fatal venereal disease, which has infected millions, perhaps tens of millions of people worldwide. And the press uses this very strange way of talking about it. When they say the rate has gone down, what they mean is the rate of increase has gone down, but it still ain't good. Now, there is an evolutionary principle that diseases become milder. So, for example, syphilis, which is suspected of having appeared slightly after Columbus, was far more virulent when it first appeared and very rapidly fatal, and now it's gotten much more moderate. We are now witnessing people with AIDS who have no symptoms, who are immune, and live much longer than they did in the 80s. I have one HIV positive friend in California who got along without drugs for 15 years. I think he's on them now, but he's very optimistic. So, the point is that there are people are sloppy. The medical profession is naive. The medical profession, most doctors have not lived wild lives. And so they don't know the kind of sexual behavior that's out there. Another example, I had a friend in graduate school named Ed Lauman. I told him a few things I knew about street sex, not from first hand. And his hair stood on end. He became the successor to Dr. Kinsey, carrying out the Kinsey Institute research in the 1990s. So the point is that a lot of people in authority don't know how wild human behavior can get. And so imagine, for example, that they imagine that simple rules will help. So, general strategics is very much about strategic self-revelation. And the question is there anything we can do to create a contact curtain between those who are infected with HIV and those who are not? That's the objective. Not to blame anybody, not to be moralistic, just to create a contact curtain. My proposal is very simple. But first of all, let's look at how HIV tests are usually conducted. For example, anonymous testing in the States. You sign in anonymously giving some funny name. You give blood, you make an appointment for results. You have to go in for the results alone. You do not get a piece of paper. And so either they tell you, yes, you passed, you're okay, or then, no, you've got it, and further counseling is required. And all they give you when you leave is a lollipop and a condom. So, how can you demonstrate to a potential partner that you're okay? There is no way. Now, you can see the logic here. They do not want it to be possible for you to be compelled to reveal your HIV status. And so, for example, employees might want to know. They have no right. Lots of people who have no right might want to know. But unfortunately, that means you can't reveal it to someone you want to reveal it to.